Call to order. Planning Commission, public hearing and regular session. Roll call.
Grossman present.
Giannico present.
Strube present.
McCoy present.
Buda present.
Holloway present.
We have a quorum.
Dick Charles Town Council, public hearing with planning commission joint, roll call.
Grossman present.
Holloway present.
Buckles present. Palmer present.
That's present.
O'Brien present.
Let me know when to stop.
We will all stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. May be seated. The Cape Charles Planning Commission will hold a public hearing with the Cape Charles Town Council pursuant to Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 2.7.1 on Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Cape Charles Civic Center, 500 Tazewell Avenue, to receive comment on zoning text amendments to section 3.14, general business, light industrial H1, GBI H1 as follows. Allows assembly and/or storage of products as a by right use under section 3.14B, paren 14. Allow buildings up to 75 feet in height with a required setback of 125 feet through a conditional use permit, section 3.14C, paren 2. Other minor changes. The Cape Charles Planning Commission will hold a joint public hearing with the Cape Charles Town Council to receive comments on a request by Southport Investors LLC to rezone 1201 Bayshore Road, tax map number 90-8-1A1, which is approximately 11.79 acres from Harbor District H to general business light industrial H1, GBI H1, for proposed use of manufacturing, assembly and storage of products pursuant to Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 2.7.2. This property is under contract for sale contingent upon this rezoning request to permit light industrial uses pursuant to the Cape Charles zoning ordinance GBI H1 district. The Planning Commission will hold a meeting immediately following the public hearing to consider both requests. The Town Council will hold their meeting on July 22nd. At this time, I'm going to have the zoning administrator say some words.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I know it's very warm and hot in here. We're doing the best we can to move this along quickly. I felt it would be useful before we hear public comments to ensure everybody has the lay of the land and knows exactly where we're talking about within the county, within the town, so we did want to go through the map very quickly. As indicated, this is the parcel, if everyone can see me, and we gave handouts if you have them, of the parcel in question that's being proposed for rezoning. Its current designation is the harbor. It's proposing to go to the GBI Light Industrial Harbor 1. There are other parcels that have that zoning designation today. Adjacent to it, this has that zoning designation. So does this parcel. And I know many of you are aware this little parcel was sold for storage, a storage company. The larger parcel over here is owned by Southport Investors. This small little parcel, which is adjacent to the concrete plant, is also zoned GBI Light Industrial H1. We have a couple of parcels that we think are zoned harbor. There is some confirmation we're still trying to do through the town records because some of this got renamed a couple of years ago when the Sustainable Technologies Industrial Park went out of business and the town renamed all of those zoning districts. So we're still working on that issue. With that said, I did want to give you a cleaner picture without all of the other parcels and their parcel numbers up there, so it's a little easier to read. One of the items we did want to stress, which is not on the county GIS system at this point, which is where all of these maps came from, is that large parcel that is owned by Southport investors did petition the town in March for a subdivision of this little pink, I guess it's pink or orange on the screen, parcel. It's about 15 acres. And that was approved. So it is now its own unique parcel. It still has the same zoning designation of GBI H1, but it's only about 15 acres in size. In terms of its width, from where it adjacent to the residential PUD properties to the other side of the original Southport property, it's about 75 feet off the top of my head. And if I've got that number a little bit wrong, I know Southport will correct me later this evening, but I wanted to give you some idea of the dimensions, the width dimensions of that parcel. It is a very narrow strip, and I do believe their intention is to eventually have a little side road go along that parcel at some point. To help you a little bit further, we did put the aerial, so again, so that you can see, I know that's a little easier to see where the concrete plant is. It's over here on this corner. And then as you work your way in, this little one is their parking area for their employees. As we go further down, there's that little building down there. Many of you know that now with Fuji Waco Chemicals is operating in there. This is, again, the parcel just north of the Waco Chemicals that is being proposed for the rezoning and is part of the text amendment that would benefit from that text amendment change. Along with these parcels would benefit from any changes that are made to the GBI H1 zoning text amendment proposal. I am including one more slide, or two slides in total, because I've fielded several questions over the last few days about the impact of wetlands. So I did a wetlands overlay onto the maps you've already seen. And yes, there are wetlands that will be on the proposed parcel that is up for rezoning, but there are wetlands throughout this area. It is this shaded green area. All of these are areas of wetlands. All that means is that's just a condition anybody who owns that property will have to address, identify, and deal with in accordance with the wetlands ordinance. It doesn't mean they get to ignore it. They just have to ensure a development plan is incorporated the wetlands that are on the property and have to work around that, possibly either through remediation or only to utilize the property where there are no wetlands. Again, we gave you, the last slide I'm including is the aerial showing again the wetlands there, because it's sometimes easier when you know what's on the ground, how that really lays out. So I just wanted everyone to have the lay of the land where we are in the town and the relation of that to the harbor in particular. So I'm going to come back over here where I don't have the wetlands on. So again, there is some distance from the actual harbor itself to where this property is proposed for rezoning. We just wanted to make you aware of it. So I hope that helps as we move forward in this conversation this evening.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, before we start the public hearing process, just want to make sure you are all aware that the public comment period is 3 minutes per speaker, which is what has always been the requirement. There was a publication of 5 minutes that was not announced by the town, but by a public citizen. So I just wanted to make sure. Now, if somebody wants to give up their time for somebody else to speak, that's allowable. However, you do not get to speak. Is that changed?
Bill, according to the citizen participating guidelines that we currently have, the minutes cannot be transferred to somebody else.
Okay.
That changed back in 2013.
All right. So it's 3 minutes per speaker.
We have both the written list and we have a slew of written comments that have come in. Which would you like to take up first? Those in attendance?
Let's do the ones in attendance first.
Here you go, Bill.
When I call your name, please come forward. And please state your name and your address. First is Phil Boykin.
I'm Phil Getkin, and I live at 602 Jefferson Avenue here in Cape Charles. Conservation and protection of the trees and tree canopy is a well-documented high priority for the citizens of Cape Charles. Just take a look at the language included in the recently approved strategic planning document and our most recently approved comprehensive plan. Take a look at our master tree plan, or take a look at Appendix F of the zoning ordinance, otherwise known as the Tree Conservation and Preservation Ordinance. All of these documents reinforce the critical importance of trees in this town. The intent of the master tree plan and the zoning ordinance is to develop a vibrant green infrastructure in all of our town's districts by protecting existing trees and promoting the planting of new trees. Appendix F of the zoning ordinance applies to all undeveloped property and property undergoing redevelopment. It requires a 10% tree canopy cover for any site zone, business, commercial, or industrial. It also requires a permit before any tree may be destroyed or removed. The Town Council, the Planning Commission, and the town staff need to work together to ensure the tree preservation and conservation ordinance is strictly administered and enforced. The zoning text changes and zoning being discussed tonight will certainly enable coastal precast systems or whoever might develop the property in question to increase the industrial base of the town. I think we can all agree that economic development is a good thing, more jobs and an increased tax base. At the same time, we need to be aware of the potential environmental cost the development of these properties might create, potentially up to 86 acres. The precious natural resources on these properties are at risk, the forest and all of the plants and animals that exist within them. A property owner has the right to develop her or his property in any way the laws, rules, and regulations permit. However, it is critical that development be done in an environmentally and ecologically sustainable manner. The development that has occurred in this area of town over the past several years has fallen dramatically short. Trees have been clear-cut all the way to property lines. As recently as last week, more trees were being cut down. If the zoning changes proposed are approved, it is my belief and fear that the trees on the properties in question will be clear-cut as well, thereby permanently changing these critical natural landscapes forever. Before any decision is made on the zoning text changes or the zoning request, I am requesting that a detailed tree plan following the zoning ordinance be submitted and approved. It is critical to know which trees will be saved and how these trees will be saved. Also, this plan should also be made public to ensure that all citizens of this town are aware of what the consequences of this development could be.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Margaret Ballard.
Good evening, Chairman Stram and members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the proposed changes in the text of the Cape Charles zoning ordinances, which would allow rezoning of parcel 98-1A1 from harbor to general business light industrial. My name is Margaret Ballard. My husband and I reside full-time at 115 Mason Avenue. I want to emphasize that my husband and I are not opposed to precast coastal systems. We applaud the efforts of Dan McGee, the plant manager, and the owners for keeping the doors of communication open. Our request is that the Planning Commission and Town Council create a much stronger vision of integrating the goals of coastal precast with the goals of all of the town's citizens, voters, and property owners. I also respectfully request that you delay the ordinance change until these proposals from Coastal Precast and the parcel owner have had a chance to be considered and completely reviewed by the boards and commissions the town council has put in place to represent its citizens. I would now like to review the purposes of the GBH district outlined in the current zoning ordinance. Purpose of the district: general business light industrial is a planned mixed industrial and employment park with a comprehensive development plan. The purpose of the district is to encourage the revitalization of the local industrial economy in historic port of Cape Charles and Northampton County. Create family wage employment and training opportunities for local residents. Serve as a model and national prototype of an integrated approach to land development and industrial operations, embodying sustainable approaches to the local economy, environment, and culture. Serve as a model for advancing the traditional settlement patterns of the Eastern Shore's towns and employment centers. Incorporate comprehensive, cost-effective approaches to resource conservation, wise use of renewable resources, and ecologically based industrial development in all aspects of design and development of the project. If the ordinance changes are passed without review by the various town organizations, where are the guardrails to ensure these purposes are fulfilled? Will the Commission recommend and the town enact amendments that support these purposes? Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Natale.
Good evening. My name is Joan Natale, and I reside at 110 Blue Heaven Road in Cape Charles. I have reviewed the complete agenda package and also reviewed the zoning ordinance referred to and under consideration tonight. In general, I support the recommended revisions to Article 3 of the zoning ordinance and the rezoning of the tax map 90-8-1A1 located at 1201 Bayshore Road from Harbor District to General Business Light Industrial H1. However, I have three concerns that I would like the Planning Commission and the Town Council to consider in their deliberations. First, I understand that the change to the GBI H1 district conditional use paragraph adds to statement 2, quote, "or building or structure other than building may be constructed to a maximum height of 75 feet if the building is set back at least 125 additional feet from the required setback for all yards abutting residential properties." I understand that any proposed development of a property in this district has to apply for and go through the conditional use process. That process includes review and public hearings before a permit is either granted or denied prior to development of the property. I personally think a height of 75 is too high for the town. Consider the following zoning ordinance height regulations for the districts currently in that area. The Harbor District, 40-foot height, 55 with a conditional use. GBI District and Industrial District M1, 45 feet. Industrial District M2, 45 feet for buildings, 50 for structures other than buildings. General Business Light Industrial H1, 40 feet for buildings, 50 for structures other than buildings, with the conditional use structures other than buildings exceeding 50 feet and buildings over 40 feet but equal to less than 50 feet. I would like you to revise the 75-foot height maximum to 55, which I believe is the highest height currently stated in the town zoning ordinance. Second, I am concerned that Section F, additional development requirements, number 9, the removal of sirens and other devices from the code. Please consider adding wording to ensure that noise from sirens or other devices are not so loud as to become a public noise nuisance to nearby residential neighborhoods and neighboring businesses in the area. If not now, maybe the subject can be considered in the near future. Third, please do everything you can to ensure that as many trees, bushes, and plantings,
Thank you.
thank you.
Shannon Alexander.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your service and your time. My name is Shannon Alexander. I'm not a resident of Cape Charles. I actually live in Accomack County, so my address is Quail Lane. I serve as the Coastal Region Steward for the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and that's in the Division of Natural Heritage. DCR is the owner of the approximately 50-acre Cape Charles Natural Area Preserve.
A little louder, please, move your mic up.
Oh. Thank you. Adjacent to the properties in question. It's one of 9 natural area preserves on the eastern shore, all of which are conserved and managed for biodiversity, conservation, and public access. DCR's inventory biologists have documented significant conservation values on these parcels, in particular an acidic oak hickory forest type, Washington oak and bitternut hickory, which is rare in the entire coastal plain and especially rich when compared with other eastern shore mature forests. Existing mature forests like this one are providing important habitat for birds and other wildlife. This area is hemispherically important for migratory and breeding birds and has been documented as a land bird migratory concentration area. In addition to biodiversity values, this tract could also provide important public access values in Cape Charles and on the eastern shore. The socioeconomic impacts of conserved lands on Virginia's eastern shore, a study completed by George Mason University in 2017, quantified the clear benefits of conserved lands in Northampton County. Demand for conserved lands and public access lands, particularly on the eastern shore, has never been greater, as was evidenced during and since the pandemic, for both residents and visitors alike. The open green space economic and conservation values for these parcels in their current condition should be considered in making this decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Beverly Steffi.
I'd like to thank the Planning Commission Board for the opportunity to express my concerns regarding the request to change the text of the General Business Light Industrial H1 zoning district and to rezone parcel 90-8-1-I-A1 from Harbor to GB/LIH1. It took years to develop and implement a comprehensive plan that has decidedly contributed to our town's renaissance. And I just worry that a rushed decision to approve the request can potentially undermine the rejuvenation that our charming little town has witnessed. I think it would be prudent that the board defer any decision at this juncture so that a thorough evaluation of these significant changes to our landscape and to the long-term vision for Cape Charles can be considered. After all, what exactly is Cape Charles gaining from this whole proposition? The potentially detrimental consequences to our economy, specifically the tourist industry, and to our quality of life, specifically the noise pollution, needs to be honestly and accurately assessed. That's why it's incumbent upon the Planning Commission Board to defer at this time a decision on the approval of the text changes and the rezoning of parcel 90-8-1A1 until proper evaluation of business and environmental impact can be completed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Susan Ida. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Susan Idem. I'm grateful to address the
Your
Planning Commission
address,
and the...
please. Address.
646 Tazewell Avenue, right here in town. I am grateful to address the Planning Commission and the Town Council. With respect for residents, business, and regulatory input has made Cape Charles a wonderful place. My comments address the importance of effective zoning ordinances with respect to time, transparency, and process. My goal is not to influence an outcome, but ask questions about how the process leading to the outcome can be as inclusive as possible. Your decisions affect the way we live, legislate, vote, and develop economically. Planning commissioners invest time, expertise, and thorough study with everyone's best interests in mind to ensure that ordinances remain effective over time and that changes evolve consistently with the comprehensive plan. Prudence and due diligence are the foundation of any resilient framework. In the rezoning and text amendment application before the Planning Commission tonight, two parties have rightfully sought modifications to existing zoning and text of zoning ordinance. There is no criticism here. Business people with an interest in bringing more commerce to Cape Charles and be profitable, it's positive economic development. A sound proposal is one where the shared interests of the industry, residents, property stability, and environmental sustainability are considered. Our planning commissioners can assure they are making quality decisions by engaging the community before a resolution is advanced to town council. For the commission to exercise due diligence, consult with citizen groups, boards, commissions, and agencies may encourage and refine the initial proposal. But it takes time. Time to review zoning, maps, and ordinance text. Time to study staff reports. Time to ask questions. No commission, regardless of expertise, can submit to a council a well-considered opinion in a week. Council should respect the time it takes for the commission to submit a more informed recommendation. The practice of swiftly renegotiating planning, zoning, and ordinance language to accommodate an implied sense of urgency often means we compromise our responsibility to fully explore and question the implications that those changes mean to the public at large. In summary, I request that citizens have ample time to read and study related documents and seek out our elected council members to ask questions and offer insights before a resolution is passed. Changes that have such a visible impact on the landscape of the town, they can be scary. Let's mitigate the presumptive fear that can snowball into hostility and distrust. Let's replace it with a framework where community partners meet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Annie Foog? Or Arnie?
Arnie Fugue, 547 Mason Avenue. The one thing that I'd like to keep in mind, to remind people of, is it sounds to me like this is a zoning change. And that what we'd like to keep in mind is if there's a zoning change and it becomes spot zoning, that everybody in town should benefit by the outcome of this, not one person or one corporation. And that's pretty much what I'd like to keep in mind for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Tillotson?
Good evening. I'm Mark Tillotson, live at 216 Blue Heaven Road. I strongly encourage the Planning Commission to reject the proposed zoning changes written by Coastal Precast Systems and submitted by Mr. Ari Baldwin. We disagree with Mr. Baldwin's assertion that the previous rezoning of Lot 83 A3-11-2 set a precedent. That lot is further from the residential area of Bay Creek, and the rezoning was in keeping with the nature of the land use plan for the harbor in the comprehensive plan, since it was planned to be a yacht repair facility. The change in zoning was needed to allow for the building of the repair facility. However, for the lot in question, 90-8-1A1, it is closer to the residential property and not anticipated to support harbor planning, so it is not the same. We feel no precedent has been set. Action must be evaluated on its own merit. Currently, we live at the north end of the Hollies. Already, the existing noise from CPS plant is obnoxiously loud. This proposal brings additional sounds even closer to within a quarter mile of our house. But we contend just as we are dissatisfied with the level of noise that exists today from even greater distance, expanding the industrial operations towards Bay Creek would put the sale of the new residential lots at Bay Creek and the Bluffs, to include Muirfield Bluffs being advertised now, and Village J at higher risk. This certainly would not be good for the economic benefit of Cape Charles, since all of these residents shop on Main Street, eat at town restaurants, and generally support Cape Charles economically. This rezoning is obviously opportunistic for some at the expense of others in Cape Charles. Cape Charles has previously modified the comprehensive plan and approved a revised zoning without additional study. As a former U.S. Army Corps of Engineers leader in charge of environmental planning and a former Department of Veterans Affairs leader in charge of community planning, I am intimately aware of how supposed minor changes to a city plan can have a large unintended but negative impact on the local environment and economy. Based on my reading of the Planning Commission staff recommendation, it appears the town is prepared to continue to incrementally change the zoning map by fiat rather than to fully study the effects in the land use plan for Cape Charles. In my mind, this is death by 1,000 cuts. This could also have a domino effect on other properties in the area without due diligence. For example, has an environmental impact study been prepared, complete with an analysis of alternative impacts to determine the effects from point source pollution control into the Chesapeake Bay, air pollution control, a noise level study, or VDOT road study to determine the effect of traffic and the safety of town residents and visitors. We contend that rezoning is premature and that Cape Charles and its citizens do not have sufficient knowledge of this proposal to make this decision at this time as a consequence of the implementation. We feel that the negative impact to the community outweighs the benefits. We strongly encourage the Planning Commission to reject the proposed zoning changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Tillotson.
My husband is a hard act to follow. My name is Sue Tillotson. I also live at 216 Blue Heaven Road. The July 2021, just this month, issue of Southern Living has an article entitled "The Best Little Beach Town in Virginia. Cape Charles has been flying under the radar, but not anymore." The article talks about historic Cape Charles as the economic hub of the Eastern Shore until the decline of the railroad industry. Now, more than 50 years later, this salty little hamlet has officially made a comeback, holding tight to its small town character, even as it welcomes a new and growing crowd of beach lovers. This, to me, is a question of who are we and who are we going to be? And I totally associate myself with the fine speakers previously that talk about the specifics of air and land and peace and quiet and wildlife and economic development. It's just that changing the zone text will have a negative effect to this small town character, in my belief. We do not support changing the height of buildings to 75 feet. This is 1.5 times higher than any structure in Cape Charles other than the water tower. The water tower, our symbol. Likewise, for any other new owners, the provision for 75 feet high buildings in this area also would create the possibility of looming high-rise buildings over future residential areas. As mentioned above, we strongly disagree with changing the text to allow sirens and OSHA warning signals so close to a residential area. We understand this is to be in the economic interest of some entities, but it feels like this is the town equivalent of clear cutting of a forest for strip mining extractions, which you cannot suddenly reverse course and restore. You can expect there will be a rise in temperatures due to increased concrete building and/or buildings where once stood groves of cooling and CO2 absorbing woods. Plus, flooding is more likely to be exacerbated on paved or hard packed ground. So ask yourself, please, these questions, which have not been answered to our satisfaction without a study. What is the effect on local agriculture? What is the effect on local wildlife? And ultimately, what will be the effect on the quality of life for residents and tourists in Cape Charles? These are not some tree hugger perspective. Cape Charles is a town with a permanent population of around 1,000, which swells to 4,000 in the season. Those tourists and visitors are outdoorsy people attracted by...
Thank you.
Got it.
Philippa Wilcox.
Chairman Strom and Commissioners, thanks. My name's Philippa Wilcox, and I live...
Pull the microphone closer.
Down a little bit?
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
my name's Philippa Wilcox, and I live at 401 Casat Knoll. My family moved here to access the natural resources that we have in this town. Can't hear me? Oh my goodness. Hang on. My family moved here to access the natural resources, be part of this community. We found lots of friendship. We developed lots of activities, and we want to be part of the future of Cape Charles, which leads me to asking, very similar to the last speaker, what kind of community do we want to be? We spent time, and I was on the marketing committee, to brand Cape Charles. We branded it Virginia's Cape. What does that mean? What are the words that come to mind? I'm not here to thwart progress. I'm certainly a believer in progress. But what I am here to do as a community member is I want to ensure that we make decisions that are really in alignment with our vision. My ask is that you pause and take a look at what you've been working on, which is the 2019 Comprehensive Plan, correct? And which really will form a framework for decision-making that we can use in this instance and in future instances, as opposed to having one-offs along the way. So that's my ask. Let's complete this comprehensive plan, and then these things will, in essence, fall into that plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Leslie McGinnis. Leslie McGinnis.
That's a scratch.
Dave Wilcox.
I also signed the sheet.
Here's your chance, 3 minutes.
Bobby Masters. Chris Shepard.
Evening, folks. Thank you very much for allowing me to, can everybody hear? Yeah, good? Thanks for allowing me to address you all and also put forth my objection in regards to the zoning change. I don't believe it's being done properly, and I think that it would be good to defer it, but it would be better to kill it. I mean, I liken Cape Charles to a very pretty face. Currently, you drive into Cape Charles and you get out on Mason Road and you look over the harbor and you see that pretty face and it's got 2 teeth knocked out. I'm afraid in the future, were any changes that could be possible under this change, will present us with a face that's bruised, with black eyes and split lips, along with missing teeth. So gentlemen,
ladies, please, kill this thing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me remind you to please state your name and your address. Chris Shepherd's next. Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
Number 3.
Bruce Evans.
I'm Bruce Evans, and I live at 652 Tazewell Avenue here in Cape Charles. I've been a resident for about 28 years, as most of you know. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I don't have a lot to say, but I would say that I am in total occurrence with most of the people that have talked here tonight. I feel very, very certain that this is a rush to judgment, a run for the checkered flag, i.e. this dual meeting. We should have meetings, probably 4 or 5 of these, for people to discuss this openly and honestly. There are many aspects in the town that have gone awry, that we have not followed the ordinances. We have done everything we can to subvert them, i.e. the historic district, the historic commission that this town works so hard and is one of our largest assets other than the beach in this beautiful town. I implore you to turn this down, and as this gentleman said just before me, kill it. And if you don't do that, please, please, please put it on the table and let's consider it. But don't rush this thing and kill this town.
Thank you. Mike Means.
Yeah, I'm going to pass. Any comments have been made clear and to the point.
Dave Dowdery.
Dave Doherty, I reside at 509 Nectarine. I agree with most of what's been said. Phil, we need trees. We need to preserve them. We also need economic progress. So it's a complex issue. We need to find a way to grow our economy here, and we need a way to preserve the image of our town. And it takes time. Time is what we need. We can't make this decision like that. You're not going to make the right one. That's for sure. And we do need to make the right decision here. I'm all for green energy. If they want a 75-foot structure because it's a wind tower to generate green energy, that's something we should think about. If it's because it's a 7-story hotel, that's something to think about too, for a different reason. And we need to know more. If they're going to manufacture green energy components, what does that entail? Are they going to be working with heavy metals, with rare earth? Are there things that we need to be very aware of, and that they are contained, and that there's not runoff of heavy metal contaminant? We don't know. We just got that. And that's not enough information to make a decision on when we're looking at the consequences of things like that. And the other thing I would suggest, if you want to revise, you've restricted traffic by rail and road to this area. Why not water? That's why noise is made late at night, because they're bringing barges in at night. Cut them off too from 11 a.m. to 5 a.m. and the noise will reduce at that time. I'm sure of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Payne.
Thank you, Chairman Stram, Mayor Diaz. My name is Bill Payne. I live at 103 Arnie's Loop in Cape Charles. I think that we ought to guard ourselves from being myopic and selfish. The issue is not Cape Charles. The issue is Northampton County, and further to that, Eastern Shore. We are part of a major brand, the Eastern Shore. Cape Charles is the minor brand, part of the shore, And as we are successful in Cape Charles, I hope we're successful in the Eastern Shore. Success is measured by economic development. We lack jobs. The issue, bottom line, is jobs. And we should do nothing that will interfere with growing the job opportunity for the poor people who surround this enclave called Cape Charles. We shouldn't be selfish. I urge you to move ahead with all urgency, no delay. In fact, as I sat here listening to the conversations, it reminded me of Eisenhower and the D-Day Normandy invasion. He spent less time figuring that out than we're trying to figure out adding about 50 jobs to our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lauren Wiegand.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Wygand, and my wife and I live at 632 Madison Avenue. We've owned our house for about 5 years now and moved here full-time this year. We bought our home originally to be our retirement home because we fell in love with the beautiful, peaceful community, the wildlife, the bay. And when the pandemic hit last year, it really made us reassess our values. And we decided it was time to move now to enjoy life as we could in our happiest, healthiest life that we could, and that's here at our home in Cape Charles. We oppose the amendment of the zoning because we have moved from Los Angeles, and it's kind of ironic that we escaped an area of overcrowding, concrete jungles, and industry. And we came here to lead a peaceful, quiet life. And it's kind of ironic now that we're here battling a large industry. So I urge you to at least table it. I would urge you to vote no. It destroys wildlife, wetlands that are invaluable here. The Chesapeake Bay, I go walking on the beach every day, I pick up trash, and it just amazes me how much plastic and cigarette butts and things like that I find on the beach. And one more thing leaching into the waters just kills off our wildlife. And as you can see by the overwhelming response here of the citizens here that live in the city, or the town of Cape Charles, that there's overwhelming response of people against it. Now, the gentleman before me has stated about jobs. Yes, jobs are important. I understand that because I gave up my job to move here. So there's many different types of jobs. It doesn't have to rely on one type of industry. And in fact, I really fully believe that an eyesore of more industrial buildings along our coastline, as it has grown since the last time I was here 2 years ago, it has grown exponentially and kind of astounding. I can't imagine the people on Mason and the merchants that rely on tourism to come up and down and have to deal with the noise pollution of the industry going on, the concrete plant going on. I wasn't even aware of sirens, so that's another huge noise pollution. The shanty has people wanting to dine on the outdoor patio, and that's difficult to do when you have dust from the concrete plant. You can see it. I ate there not too long ago, and you can see it billowing up when they're doing whatever it is they're doing with the concrete dust. And so I really feel like there's other ways that we can improve the economy here. This town relies a lot on tourism, and we could focus on that.
Thank you. That's all that signed up. We will now hear from those that submitted their comments.
This is from Nick and Paul Tiffany. This is, we feel that The Cape Charles natural area and the surrounding wetlands should be preserved as much as possible to protect the unique habitat environment and the wildlife that reside there. For this reason, we do not agree with the rezoning request. Again, that was from Nick and Paul Tiffany, 22650 Bender's Lane.
Could you move the mic closer, please?
Is that better?
Yes.
This is from David J. Parham. Dear Mayor Dyes and honorable members of Town Council and Commissioners, I'm going to skip that part because you all know why everyone's writing in. I believe these zoning changes could have a huge impact on the residents, businesses, and general environment in the Cape Charles, and any decision related to zoning changes should not be rushed through without proper and complete review. I don't feel that an educated decision on this matter could be made without such a thorough and complete Siri wants to answer questions for me. Complete review of all considerations and impacts, and cannot imagine how the Planning Commission and Town Council could decide without a complete comprehensive review. I respectfully request that any decision be postponed until all potential impacts are thoroughly studied. I would suggest that all the various boards and commissions we have in Cape Charles should be given the opportunity to review any and all impacts of the proposed zoning changes. These include, but not limited to, the Wetlands and Dune Commission, Harbor District Review Board, Tree Advisory Board, and whoever is in charge of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. In addition, environmental impact studies should be conducted and impact of sound and dust pollution seriously considered. We all agree that new business growth is desirable. However, years of comprehensive reviews, along with professional consultation, has set the comprehensive plan which is currently in place and has led to a rebirth of Cape Charles. The existing planning and zoning should not be hastily changed without a complete and proper evaluation of the economic impact to downtown businesses, commercial property values, taxes, and impact on tourism, along with any environmental impacts. This is a serious issue and requires a complete and thorough investigation before any decision is made. Thank you for your consideration. Best regards, David J. Parham. This is from Karen Reed Lowe and William Richard Lowe. To begin with, we wish to say that we understand the importance of this business to the local economy and their right to use the property in accordance with the current zoning regulations. That being said, it does not enhance the view shed for Mason Avenue. It creates noise, dust, and negatively impacts the business district and tourism. We strongly oppose acquisition of more land to expand the operation. We object strongly to the proposed text changes to GBIH1 on its own merit and their impact on other parcels. We strongly oppose the rezoning request because of its impact on surrounding areas. We are also strongly opposed to any action that would allow buildings to exceed 40 feet. Thank you for your consideration of our opinion in this matter. Regards, Karen Reed Lowe and William Richard Lowe. Dan Coffey. We are full-time Cape Charles residents, taxpayers, and registered voters. We have kept silent over recent changes at the concrete plant, realizing the long history of the concrete plant that offers much-needed jobs. We are pleased by the apparent cooperation between the town and concrete plant to reduce noise and dirt from the operation. However, the current rezoning proposal has caused us to realize that now is the appropriate time for us to voice our concern over the proposed rezoning, as it may further destroy the delicate balance between industry and the scenic beauty of this town, one of our greatest and fragile resources. We ask the Town Council and Planning Commission take the time and due diligence to study the effects the proposed zoning changes may have on Mason Avenue viewshed, the town harbor, the parcel designated Wetlands Harbor, the treescape, property values, the Bay Creek development, and the tourism industry. Of utmost concern is the request for an exemption of property zone light industrial to allow 75-foot tall buildings for the purpose of assembly and storage. We wish Coastal Concrete success, but also desire the continued success of Cape Charles. There's a delicate balance that is too important to the future of both Cape Charles and Coastal Concrete. Please take the time and resources to ensure that both Cape Charles and Coastal Concrete can work together for all. Thank you, Dan and Macy Coffee, 615 Strawberry Street. Jim Granger. I'm writing this to voice my opposition to the proposed amendments to the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 3.14, general business light industrial H1, and the application for zoning map amendment, rezoning 1201 Bayshore Road, tax map number 9890-A-1A1 for Harbor District to general business light industrial H1. I recognize the industrial nature of the south side of Cape Charles Harbor. However, 1201 Bayshore Road is much closer to the Yacht Center and Hook at Harvey. Marinas and restaurants are, in my opinion, a better use for that parcel. Also, allowing buildings up to 75 feet high would have a major negative impact on the view shed and appearance of the harbor. For those reasons, I oppose the proposed zoning ordinance amendments and the proposed rezoning of 1201 Bayshore Road. Sincerely, Jim Granger, 524 Jefferson Avenue. This is Margaret Gorse. I hope I'm saying her name right. Gorsky. Dear Planning Commission members, Town Council, Mayor, and Town Manager, I ask that you defer a decision on the above requested changes at this time. Coastal Precast Systems and Southport Investors LLC wrote the changes to the wording and zoning for their mutual benefit. While not opposed to business advancement or a land purchase, I am opposed to this being approved without additional consideration. Our wetlands, residents of the Hollies and New Quarter, future residents of lots abutting this parcel, our town, all would be affected by these changes. Structures would be permitted to nearly double in height. Sirens, audible devices, and outside manufacturing, assembly, and storage would be permitted. The parcel in question for sale is designated wetlands and zoned harbor. This would change. The clear cut by Coastal Precast has already impacted the greensward near Waco, and this effect would also increase. Due diligence requires that decisions on rezoning and changes to the text be deferred until fully examined by our extant cogent boards. Cape Charles Tree Advisory Board and the Wetlands Board need to review this proposal in consideration of current ordinances such as the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance, Wetlands Ordinance, and the Tree Conservation and Preservation Ordinance. The joint meeting of Council and Planning Commission, followed by a meeting of Town Council next week, is a clear effort to expeditiously decide this request. From 2008 to 2021, only 5 zoning changes have occurred. I believe this underscores that we have time for due diligence before approving these changes. Please conclude today's meeting with an approval to defer a decision for the text and zoning changes until due diligence of cogent boards has occurred. Sincerely, the Gorski family. This is from the Cape Charles Tree Advisory Board. Cape Charles Tree Advisory Board is concerned about the proposed zoning and text changes to accommodate the sale of harbor area property to Coastal Precast Systems. There are many legal, aesthetic, economic, and environmental aspects to consider in granting approval for these changes. However, the focus of this letter is primarily on the environmental impact to this property and to the town of Cape Charles. This proposal would rezone a current heavily forested area with a section of wetland to light industrial. It would change the wording to allow indoor and outdoor assembly and storage and increase the size of the structures of this property to allow buildings up to 75 feet tall, the equivalent of a 5-story building. Additionally, any wording on landscaping screening or environmental protection is at best vague. With this, if the changes are approved, there's a high risk that the new owner would plan to treat this property as they have done the parcel of land recently purchased. The recently purchased land directly to the north of the Cape Charles Nature Preserve once offered a pristine approach through a native maritime forest, which led to a lovely view of the Chesapeake Bay. It not only had value for its peacefulness and beauty, but it also offered shade to visitors seeking a cool respite during the hot summer months. This is no longer the case, since all the trees were cut down, leaving the land bare and destroying a high value of asset for Cape Charles residents and visitors. In evaluating the proposed zoning and text changes, TAB asked that the town to seriously consider the quality of life and environmental value that would sustain through protecting the forested wetland area. The existing flora fauna residing on these properties provide a richness which would be forever lost if the changes were approved as written. In weighing the pros and cons, the town of Cape Charles would be advised to acknowledge the value the existing trees provide to our town, to the Chesapeake Bay, and to the region as a whole. The reduction of air pollution, a serious health threat that causes asthma, respiratory, and heart disease and cancer, is one of the most valuable ways the trees benefit the community. This is done by removing harmful gases that contribute to smog, acid rain, and the greenhouse effect, a proven contributor to climate change. Trees sequester carbon dioxide in their roots, trunks, stems, and leaves, with 1 acre of forest able to absorb 6 tons of carbon dioxide per year, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Just think of all the CO2 absorbed.
You get time too.
Carrie McKinney. It says, as a full-time resident of Cape Charles, Gary and I strongly oppose the expansion of the concrete facility. We are hopeful Town Council and the Planning Commission will also strongly oppose any expansion for coastal concrete by rezoning this property to allow large-scale industrial use. We already experience a huge amount of dust and noise on certain days from the facility. The dust has an unhealthy impact on the community and adversely affects our homes. It is my understanding the parcel in question for sale is at present zone harbor, and a portion is designated wetlands. Therefore, should not the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Board and possibly other state entities be consulted prior to approval? Why is this being pushed through so quickly? At the very least, all residents and business owners should be given notice of these changes and proposals and given time to respond, especially since the repercussions of approval would impact property values, the viewshed from Mason, and the wetlands. We are asking you, as our town council and planning commission, to not make this worse. Please keep Cape Charles as magical as it is now. Thank you for your consideration. Gary and Sheila McKinney, 14 Bay Avenue. Luke Saunders. To whom it may concern, my wife and I are relatively new to town. We decided to purchase in Cape Charles because it felt refreshingly removed from corporate commotion and the unchecked encroachment of inconsiderate industrial and commercial development. That sentiment has changed as Coastal Precast Systems has continued to ramp up operations. It's been unfortunate to see CPS negatively impact much of the feel of the harbor and to some degree Mason Avenue. It's noisy, it's an eyesore, and it benefits very few in the town of Cape Charles. I would like for us to strongly consider taking more time to evaluate the holistic impact that we would be enabling by allowing CPS to rezone and develop on more natural land along the harbor. I would also urge us to consider what other governing bodies or environmental agencies we should feel ethically obligated to partner with in making this decision. Thanks for your consideration. Luke Saunders, 516 Madison. Robert D. Brown. Good evening. I, Robert Brown, and my wife, Donna Brown, are property owners and residents of Bay Creek. We would recommend against rezoning the property adjacent to the resort as requested by the concrete plant. The area and adjacent property is part of the nature preservation area and is adjacent to housing Bay Creek. Changes in the zoning of this area and commercial development would be detrimental to the environment and to the quality of life experience there. Please consider the impact this would have on the environment, natural habitat, and socially in the area. Deny a change in the zoning in this area. Sincerely, Robert Brown. Mary Barrow, Monroe Avenue. Dear Planning Commission members, Town Council, Mayor, and Town Manager, as a homeowner in the Historic District of Cape Charles, I'm writing to request that any decision regarding the text of the General Business Light Industry H1 zoning district and rezoning parcel 981A1 from Harbor to General Business Light Industrial H1 be deferred until consideration can be given and summaries submitted from the various boards and commissions available to Cape Charles as objective resources from projections regarding the consequences of this decisions. The entities would include but are not limited to the Wetlands and Coastal Dune Commission, the Harbor District Review Board, the Tree Advisory Board, the Historic District Review Board, any Chesapeake Bay Environmental Study Committees, any real estate associations, Main Street. While I believe that Coastal Cement has every right to ask for changes suggested, I also believe that such changes may have unforeseen potential detrimental consequences to the town of Cape Charles. I appreciate your consideration. Sincerely, Mary Barrow, Monroe Avenue. Lori Blewett, hope I pronounced the name right. Does our community want more industry right on the bay, more noise and dust? Once it's done, can it be undone? Why is this such a rush job? It appears to be a recent request within the last 60 days. I think we should step back and not be pressured into making the decision without studying and considering all impacts this change could have on our environment in town. Who does this benefit? Has the EPA and the Natural Conservancy been notified at this potential change and the impact it may have on the Chesapeake Bay? Is it against the law to make this type of decision without having notified the entities? The Chesapeake Bay lost 90% of its submerged and 50% of its coastal marshes per the EPA. What will be the impact on the nearby wetlands from the development of this parcel? Isn't it in the community's best interest to preserve any wetlands in and around Cape Charles? Do we want to contribute to this loss? We have a tree conservation and preservation ordinance and a tree advisory board. We are also bound by the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. To date, it appears that none of those boards or ordinance have been consulted. I did not see any minutes to this respect. Noted from the joint meeting, Planning Commission, Town Council, Tuesday, July 13th at 6 p.m. Number 6, the purpose of joint meeting of the Planning Commission and the Town Council is to gain the approval of the Planning Commission on July 13th and then allow the Town Council to approve it on July 22nd. This is too quick to fully understand the ramifications of the proposed amendment changes and the rezoning. I've heard recently that the town is trying to promote tourism in Cape Charles. In fact, we appear to be all about it if you own a rental home, restaurant, or retail store. Eroding our nature is not conducive to this end, if that is where we are heading. Do we want to see, and I quote from the joint meeting, Planning Commission, Town Council, Tuesday, July 13th, potential outdoor pilings of raw and waste materials and newly assembled products awaiting transport and/or delivery, warehousing, and newly constructed facilities at 75 foot tall. When Coastal Precast purchased this facility, I would think they knew what they were getting and that it would be sufficient for their needs. Or were they hedging their bets and given the wink-wink on expanding and expecting the town to allow them to do just that without question? We want to see new job opportunities, but not at the expense of our natural environment. From what we've heard, Town Council has already rubber... John D. and Jean B. Evans. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this letter is from John and Jean Evans, owners since 2004 of the house and property located at 207 Monroe Avenue in Cape Charles. We are writing in reference to the joint meeting of the Planning Commission and Town Council to be held on June 13, 2021. First of all, thank you for providing homeowners and residents with the opportunity to express our thoughts and opinions on the proposed changes to the zoning code, which would allow for expansion of the cement factory. In short, we are strongly opposed to requested change in zoning and to any expansion of the factory so close to the town center and recreational areas adjacent to the town harbor, including the beach and the fish pier. Please do not rush to a decision in this matter that is so critical to the town and its future. This matter is far too important to be decided without proper studies and recommendations by experts in land use management, environmental studies, conservation, land and animal species. When we read the proposed plans, the first thought that came to our minds was a quote from Thoreau: "Thank God they cannot cut down the clouds." We want to see people on the lower eastern shore being given the opportunity for employment that the factory provides. At the same time, we want to see the beauty of the land and green spaces surrounding the harbor are preserved and protected, and also that the air quality standards are met and the air is safe to breathe. We are greatly concerned that the proposed growth of the cement factory will increase the amount of dust we are breathing and also increase the amount of level of noise pollution that already exists with the present size of the factory. Cape Charles has a charm that deserves protection, and we do not believe that the expanding of the size of the cement factory is in the best interest of the residents or visitors. Tourists and new home buyers coming here in recent years made a significant impact on the local economy, and we believe many will no longer want to return here if dust, noise, air quality, and unsightly machinery increase in size and volume. We urge the Planning Commission and the Town Council to adopt an environmentally sound approach and vote to deny or at least delay the rezoning request for the property adjacent to Fujiwako Lab at the nearby conservation area, pending in-depth studies of the long-range implications of such a critical decision. We thank you in advance for your consideration of our concerns and urge you to vote for preservation and protection. With climate change increasing around the world, we all need to do what we can to counter global warming in our own backyard and do our best to protect the environment and manage precious resources. Eric S. Fulati, 201 Monroe Avenue. Okay. I understand you will discuss some serious amendments to Cape Charles zoning. I am in favor of business development in the municipality of Cape Charles if it benefits the people living here full-time. Regarding the property currently discussed, I would like to know how it will generate substantial revenues to the town, protect the environment. I already noticed serious deforestation, improve the quality of life of the citizens. If Cape Charles is in an historic town with a beach, then the view, the noise, and the dust generated by the existing concrete plant does not fit the description of who we are and want to remain. Cape Charles is experiencing a major population change, mostly due to the property values. Do not jeopardize the opportunity to attract higher income patrons to the existing retailers by transforming Cape Charles into an industrial park. Your administration has been weak to raise revenues for the town outside increasing taxes. Everything is free for the visitors: parking, pier, beach, and concerts. Maybe it is time to think out of the box. Instead of granting an out of control extension of the concrete plant, maybe one could focus on attracting other businesses more related to who lives and visits Cape Charles. Don't you feel there is need for entertainment like a good-sized mini golf and an indoor shooting range, for example? These businesses will buy or lease the land necessary for the activities. I count on you to do the right thing. Do not change the character of Cape Charles. The concrete plant is big enough, and bigger will not be better for all of us. Sincerely, Eric Fulate. Lothar and Cornelia Hasselberger, hope I'm saying their names right, 208 Harbor Avenue. It is with great concern that we homeowners in Cape Charles since 2007 see both the haste and the magnitude of what is under consideration at today's meeting. We would like to voice our views as we cannot attend the meeting in person. In one hastily scheduled decision, major zoning changes are requested that directly or indirectly will impact indefinitely those who work, live, or vacation in Cape Charles. All this for a text change in current zoning that allows the one requesting person to receive a higher sales value for property owner. The consequences will be permanent and irreversible, and we believe to the detriment of our community. The wording in the community call leaves no doubt about it. The domino effect on developers and corporations intending to bring light industry to Cape Charles. The massively intensified use of current lots for the monoculture of one heavy industry, intending to nearly double the existing factory building height to 75 feet. The lasting side effect on the view sheds of Cape Charles, the adjacent nature preserve, parcel 90A 4C, the existing Waco Fuji Lab, the adjacent private properties. We urge the Planning Commission, the Town Council, to resist both the temptation and the pressure of the proposed changes. Respectfully, Lothar and Cornelia Hasselberger. That's all I have.
Thank you. So that concludes the public comments. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to close to the town council. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we lose everyone in the audience, there is a public hearing that is coming up in which we will hear from the applicants, both from Southport Investors and from Coastal Precast. So you may wish to stick around to hear that information that's going to be supplied from the applicants.
Can we do that sooner than later?
It's
Because,
coming up next.
okay, because there's a lot of just misinformation.
So if you would like to leave, you can, but we wanted to make you aware that you're going to hear some more information on this matter tonight.
Bill, can we get a 5-minute break with some air?
Yes, we're going to get a take a 5-minute break. Oh, I thought you did.
Yeah.
You did. You did. You didn't adjourn?
They closed public comment.
Does anyone need more water?
Yes, please.